Hello and welcome to today's class. For today, we'll be trying to discuss an important aspect in mathematics known as quadratic equation. So by definition, a quadratic equation is simply an equation where the highest power or the highest index of the variable is 2, right? So the general form or perhaps the general form perhaps of a quadratic equation is given as um, ax squared plus bx plus c to be equal to 0. This is simply the general form of a quadratic equation where a is called where x squared or perhaps where a is called the coefficient of x squared, where b is called the coefficient of x, and c is called constant. So it means that whenever the highest power of a variable is 2, is called what? The quadratic equation. Let me give you some instance. If I have 2x squared plus 4x minus 5 to be equal to 0, this is what? This is simply a quadratic equation. Why? Because the highest power here is 2. Look up, if I have 4x squared to be equal to 11, this is still a what? A quadratic equation. Why? Because my highest power here is 2. So your task there is that watch out for the highest power, then you're done. When it comes to solving problem under quadratic equation, there are some method of solving problems under quadratic equation which we're going to be discussing right now. So let's discuss the method of solving problem under quadratic equation. All right, the method, right? What are the methods of solving problem under quadratic equation? Number one, we have the general method, or some people prefer to call it the factorization method. Factorization method. You can call it general method or factorization method. All right. Number two there is completing the square method. The square method. This is another method for solving quadratic equation. We also have the formula method, or you call it the formula method or quadratic formula. Formula, right? These are the three main methods of solving problem under quadratic equation. But also we can still use calculator to find the root or perhaps solve a quadratic equation. So you can just attach 4 there using calculator. And also we can still use what? We have graphical method. Graphical method of solving problem under quadratic equation. All right, these are the three or perhaps the 5 basic method of solving problem under quadratic equation. Let's take them one after the other. Let's start with the first one here called general method. General method is also called the factorization method. What's the idea behind factorization method? Let's take it as an example and let's try to solve them together. So let's take a sound problem and further explain the idea behind factorization method. So the question says, let's say I'm given that x squared minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. Of course, this is a what? A quadratic equation, right? So let's try to solve this one here using the idea of factorization method, right? The first one there. So what's the idea behind factorization method? The idea is quite simple. Your first task is to look for two numbers such that if you multiply them together, you have plus 6. And if you add them together, you have minus 5. Of course, my two numbers are minus 2 and minus 3. Why am I picking this? The reason is that I know very well that minus 2 times minus 3 will give a positive 6. That's plus 6. So I'll have plus 6 here. Of course, add them up. Minus 2 plus minus 3 is what? Minus 5. So these are the two possible numbers that will give me 6 and 5 minus 5. So it means that, all right, so from here, I'll try to pick x squared. I'll have x squared. Now, I am replacing this value, minus 5x, with these two possible numbers. So I'll have the first one is what? Minus 2, then attach s to it. I have minus 3, minus 3x, attach s to it. So I've replaced this guy here with these two numbers. Then I have plus 6 to be is equal to 0. Next task now is that I'll group this one here. So I'll group it, grouping. What do I mean by grouping? I'll pick them two. Pick x squared minus 2x separately in this case. Then minus sign, this one will be here. I have these two, pick them together. That's 3x plus 6 being equal to 0. Alright, from here now, my next task is to factorize, right? So factorizing, what is common here? Obviously, s is common. Bring out x, I'll have x. Into, if 1x divide 2x, I'm left with 1x here. I'll have x. Next up, minus 2x divided by x, I'll have 2 as this. So this means that if I multiply s times x, I'll have x squared. Minus is minus here. 2 times x, or perhaps s times 2, I'll have 2x as my answer here. So next task, I have a minus. This minus comes out a term common here. Of course, 3 is common. Bring out 3 into, if minus 3 divides, or perhaps if 3 divide 3x, I'll have x. So I'll have x here. So I have plus 6 dividing minus 3. If I have plus 6 dividing minus 3, 3 here 1, 3 here 2. Plus divided minus is minus. So I have minus 2 as my answer here to be equal to 0. So at this point, note something while solving a quadratic equation using factorization method. Whenever you have the same term in brackets in this sense, it means that you are correct. So when the value in the bracket here are not the same, you are wrong. That's like the idea behind this. So my next task here is to, since these are the same, I'll pick one. So I'll pick x minus 2 as one value, then pick this x, then minus 3 as the other value for my root. So to be equal to what there. Alright, from here, I'll try to pick 1, equate it with 0. I'll pick this one, this first one, x minus 2, right? So I'll pick this one here and equate it to 0, and I'll say or. I'll pick the second one here, equate it to 0. It means that if minus 2 comes here becomes plus 2, I'll have x to be equal to 2. If the 0 is nothing, so take minus 2 here becomes plus 2, which is 2, or x equal to, take minus 3 here becomes plus 3. So these are the two answers. Alright, when it comes to factorization method, right, or perhaps any method, anyone here, after solving it, you'll be having two answers as your root. So we're having x to be 2, x to be 3. So whichever method you're using here, there's no how, you'll be having two answers. So that's what you need to note. When it comes to quadratic equation, you do have two answers. Also, after getting to this point, after factorizing, ensure that what is here is what is here to ensure the correctness of the solving, right? So that's how it works. Let's take another example and further explain the concept behind Factorization method. Example 2. If I have 2x squared minus 24x plus 40 to be equal to 0. Alright, let's try to solve this example 2. Before we start solving this one, let's try to understand something. The first example I gave you, the coefficient of x squared, the coefficient of x squared is unity, that it is 1. But in this case, the coefficient of x squared is 2. So my first task is to what? Simplify this. I'll reduce it, right? Or perhaps simplify it. So my first task says to divide through by 2. So divide through by 2. It means that I'll have 2x squared all over 2 minus 24x all over 2 plus 40 all over 2 equal to 0 all over 2. So I'm dividing through by 2. From here, my next task is to what? Simplify. 2 in 2 is 1. I have x squared left. Minus 2 in 24 is 12. I have 12x. Next up, plus, if these two divide 40, I'm left with what? 20 to be equal to, is 0 divided by 2? It's 0, right? So from here now, my next task is to, before I proceed, so all right, from here, observe that this one now is now like something of this nature, right? This one here. So I apply this concept all through here to get our two answers. So it means that from here, I'll look for two possible numbers. If I multiply them, it will give me plus 20. If I add them up, I'll have minus 12. Of course, my two possible numbers here are um 2 and 10, 2 and 10, which is minus 2 minus 10. So minus 2 times minus 10 will give me plus 20, and minus 2 plus minus 10 will give me minus 12. So it means that I'm replacing this value here with these two numbers. So I'll have that x squared minus 2, then attach x to it, right? I have minus 10. We said attach x to it. So replace this one in the middle here with these two values. Then I have plus 20 to be equal to 0. At this point here, we said grouping, right? So from here, I'll start with my grouping. All right, grouping, I have that x squared plus 2x first. We said pick this one, sorry, minus 2x, pick this one first. I have a minus sign here, pick these two together. That's 10x plus 20 being equal to 0. We said from here, I'll start with what? Factorizing. So factorizing, observe from the first bracket, what is common here? X. Pick out x into, divide x by x squared. I'm left with x, so I'll put my x here. This is minus minus 2x divide x. I'll have what? The 2. I'm done with this first one here. Minus sign is minus here. What's common here? The common term here is 10. I'll pick out 10 into 10x divided by 10. 10 cancel out 10, left with what? X. I'll have x here, right? I'll have x there. Next up, if I have plus 20 divided by minus 10, plus minus is minus, 20 divided by 10 is 10. All right, from here, I'm saying that plus 20 divided by minus 10, plus minus is minus, 20 divided by 10 is 2, please, not 10. I have 2, and to be equal to 0. Observe that this answer here and here are the same thing, so I'm correct. Like, not answer, but the term in bracket here and here are the same thing, so we're correct. So proceeding here, since they're the same, pick out one. I'll have x minus 2. Next up, I'll pick out this x, then minus 10 here to be equal to 0. We said equate each of them to 0. I'll pick this first one, x minus 2 equate it to 0, or I'll have an x minus 10 equated to 0. From here, x is equal to 2 or x is equal to 10. These are like the answer after solving this man using the idea of factorization method. In our next class, we'll try to consider the second method here called completing the square. So you can check the description of this video. You see the link that will take you to how to solve problem using completing the square method.